Okay. Mm, Bonjour, bonjour. Yep. Hello, hello. Hope
Hi.
everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll just. All right. Well, uh, everyone's here. Think so. Okay. Okay. So, is everyone doing all right? I think that we should be good to go. Mm, yeah. Okay. So, can everyone hear me right? Yeah. So, if I ever like if there's some connection problem, you can write in the chat, or you can simply turn on your mic and tell me if you can't hear something. Well, for the ones who haven't turned on their camera, it's okay. I mean, I respect that. If you don't want to turn on your camera, if you don't feel comfortable turning on your camera, it's totally all right. Um, we may do some activities that are related to camera use, not today. So when the times comes, maybe we will able to use the camera as a learning tool. Okay, so I hope that everyone's doing all right today. Thanks for coming in. So it was quite complicated to set up. I think that there's only one person who isn't there, but they warned me that they weren't able to make it to today's class, so that's all right. The class is recorded, so I'll be able to send you well, the recording, if you want to watch it again, which I assume that most of you will not because you attended class today. But if you are ever not able to come to a class, you will always be able to watch the class and kind of learn from the interactions you can see on the screen. Okay. So basically today's class is going to be separated into two different parts. So I'm basically going to present the class as a whole. So we're going to talk a little bit about our objectives, um, and I'll also present myself, and then we're going to be able to move on onto this first class. So I'll share my screen for the presentation. Uh, can you tell me if you can see the presentation? Thumbs up if you can. Okay. Um, so it's going to be a short presentation. I think about 15 minutes should be all right. About the class. This is a full course of 8 weeks for beginners. So you're all beginners in learning French. I assume that some of you have more knowledge than others, maybe because, well, you studied French in the past, or maybe that you're currently living in France. Uh, Whatever may be the reason, this is going to be helpful as some of you may be able to help understanding certain things and explaining certain things to other learners, okay? So I'm going to start a little bit about me. Um, so, um, well, I'm French. I assume that you can hear that, sort of. So I'm from the Red Island. I'm pretty sure that most of you haven't heard anything about it. This is like a kind of a small island of the Atlantic coast. Just well, you can kind of see on the screen. It's right here. This is very small. There's not much to do here. It's just, but it's a nicely placed to live in. I'm French. I grew up in France. I uh, started learning languages through school. I am currently in a master's degree, so I'm pretty sure that it may be different depending on the countries you're from. So basically, a master's degree in France is like fourth and fifth year of well, you could call it higher studies. So in university, so I'm studying language teaching in Poitiers. So Poitiers is just like a southwest of Paris. Maybe some of you have heard of Poitiers. For some of you that may be living in France, for example, if you need to intervene and kind of react to what I'm saying, make sure to turn on your microphone and you're very welcome to intervene. So I'm currently an intern at l'Atelier du Français. Um, so this is part of the end of my studies. I'm currently in the second year and in the final year of my master's degree. So I had to do an internship teaching French to pretty much any public. So that public is you. Um, if you're maybe interested in my project as a final year master student, I'm currently creating a teaching manual. So it's going to be a kind of a manual guide uh, in learning French. So I plan to kind of implement the technological resources that we are using right now. So for example, with Zoom or any other technology in learnings. Okay. Um, so about me also, you can contact me by mail. We had some exchanges by mail. So if you have any question, any demands to make me, you can always write me an email and I'll try to answer it. And I'm also on Discord because the Atelier du Français has a very big emphasis on the Discord resources. So if you prefer to contact me by Discord directly, you're free to contact me by Discord. Discord or mail is fine. It doesn't really matter. Okay. But about the Atelier du Français, so it's an association based in Paris. I'm sure that you have seen that they are offering some group and private courses for all level. So for now, you're kind of situated into a beginner's class, so A0 to A1, okay? And if you have the chance to maybe, so if you're maybe in the need to kind of learn new things, browse through some free resources, you can always go on their website. They have many videos, quick, well, you could still quick learning pods about French, which could be helpful for some of you, okay? And so about the class, we kind of already gone through that with the mails, with the also with the like interviews we had together. So this is a beginner's class. It's going to be about 8 weeks. So we're going to have 16 classes together, starting from now. Classes will be held on Tuesday, just like today, just like on Thursday. So from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Um, if you can't be available for a class, which is understandable, you can always write me an email to kind of warn me beforehand. It will be always welcome. And we'll also have class on Tuesday from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. So I need you now to answer for all of you, maybe each at a time. Are you available for both classes on those scheduled hours? Or maybe will it be complicated sometimes? So for example, for you, Nora, are you available on both Tuesday and Thursday?
Yeah, I'm okay for both classes.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
all right. So for you, Felix and Nino.
Okay, for now, I'll be available, but because of my job,
Mm-hmm.
with time, I might not be available on Tuesday. Then
Okay.
when we get to maybe next month,
All right.
availability of, the two, because from next month, the summer will be, coming up.
Okay.
And I work in a hotel, so it's kind of like very busy and demanding for me. But for now, I can be doing it.
Okay. Well, if your like availabilities kind of evolve, you can always write me an email and I'll try to do what I can do. Um, if like again, the classes are going to be recorded, so you're always free to kind of use those recordings as kind of being present. For the others, is everyone okay with Tuesday and Thursday?
I'm
Yeah.
okay with Tuesday and Thursday.
Sandeep?
For the Tuesday, I think the other slot was from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m., right?
It was from 1:30 to 3, yeah.
Okay. I think that one was much more better for me, but I think even this will work if
Okay. Well, if I'm going to ask again, I'm going to write you a mail this evening if everyone is still okay with those scheduled hours, and if maybe we can like change for 30 minutes maybe on Tuesday. If maybe that kind of helps other people, we can try to work it out. But again, it's going to be really complicated because, well, everybody is kind of has different availabilities during the week. So it's just something that we'll have to work it out. Okay.
completely fine. I understand.
Okay. Thank you, Sandeep. So other than that, it's okay. All right. So we're going to move on. About your objectives. So I understand that most of you have different kind of personal objectives in learning French. Um, some of you, it may be just for kind of, well, you could say the pleasure or the kind of the, well, the privilege to learn a new language just for fun, I guess. However, some of you may be interested in learning French to work or to study in France. Some of you are already in France. So it's kind of more of a need than a want, if you may say it like this. So the objectives for this class is kind of uh, clearing the A1 level in order for you to kind of continue learning into the A2, B1 level, okay? The class is going to be really focused on knowing helpful expressions and sentence structures. So some of it may be, well, as I've said previously, you have very different levels in French. Some of you are more advanced than others. So we are going to go through the basics, the basic conversational French, but also in the grammar, because, well, everything in a language has to start kind of with the grammar. So we're going to go through all the basics, and also a more oral approach will be to learn about French diction and phonetics. Um, yeah. Another thing that I haven't pointed out yet, you're all English speakers. So most of you have like English as a first language, which will be able to kind of well, exchange between each other. Maybe if you can't exchange French, because as at that level, I imagine that most of you can't really, well, can't really direct a conversation, a complete conversation in French. So you can always communicate between each other in English. In class, we'll do as much French as we can. I'm going to try to express myself as much as I can in French. However, I may be able to use English to explain certain aspects. If you need some explanation, I will always be able to use English, okay? Do any one of you have a question for the moment? No question? Okay. So uh, something that hasn't been brought up yet is that I'm still learning. So I'm currently an intern at the Atelier du Français. So I may be able to make some mistakes. And there's the kind of the challenge of the Zoom thing. So doing virtual classes. This isn't the first time I've had virtual classes, but it's still something that it can lead to certain problems like connection problems, technical difficulties. So again, if there's some difficulties like that, I'll try my best. But again, if you can be kind of, I don't know how to really say it, but if you can be understanding of certain aspects, it would be really great. So for the moment, if you have any question, for the moment, you can ask me right now, or you can write me an email. Um, I think that this is going to be great. I'm glad to be able to teach to you all. So as you may see in the class, uh, we are 10 for the moment, but someone is absent. So we are going to be 11 during the classes, which will be able for each and every one of you to kind of maybe exchange together, but also have the power to express yourself freely, more freely as if we were like maybe 20 to 30 students. Okay? No question about the class, about l'atelier du français, about me as a teacher or, well, just a person. No questions? Yep. Okay. So we're going to move on to today's class. By the way, this is something that I haven't said, but we are going to do a small break during each classes of about 5 minutes for each and every one of you to kind of take a break from showing yourself on camera, kind of get your cup filled with water, tea, coffee, whatever, to kind of cool down for 5 minutes because, well, virtual classes can be hard, and they can be hard, especially hard if they're too long. So yeah, we're going to do a break about at about mid class, so it should be around around 3:50 maybe. So that's something that we'll have to see. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen about the presentation of today's class. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? Yeah, okay. So basically what I said previously, we're going to go through the basics, and the basics include kind of a progression, a natural progression, which is to go from the most useful to something gradual. So it's going to be kind of a slope that we are going to have to mount together. Okay. So for today's class, so this is the first lesson in the first unity. We're basically going to learn the basic presentation, and we're going to be able to introduce each other to kind of get to know each other, because this is a very important. Well, this is also the kind of well, you could call it the bad thing or the cons of having a virtual lesson, is that we are not present together. So it may be harder to feel kind of that link together, kind of that interaction. So we'll try to really get to know each other and really be able to create something that is going to be facilitating the exchanges together. Okay. So for the first unity, it is called bienvenue. So c'est quoi bienvenue? What is bienvenue?
Welcome.
Yeah, it's welcome. So if you need to intervene, again, you can just turn on your mic, raise your hand on Zoom, whatever. If you feel the need to intervene, I'm glad that you do. Okay, so the first unity is bienvenue, so welcome. And the first class is going to be about se présenter, which is kind of transparent with the English se présenter. What is se présenter? Do any one of you know what does it mean?
Is it introduce yourself?
Yeah. So the important word here is so. So means in the whole sentence means introduce yourself. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to learn about the basics to kind of introduce yourself to someone you don't know yet, just like we do, because we don't know each other. So we are going to be able to use that to kind of introduce each other to the group, okay? Right. So, les objectifs. Knowing the helpful greetings depending of the time of the day, knowing how to introduce yourself, and also learning the difference between masculin and féminin. So that last part is going to be very important because, well, you're all English. You all have English as a first language, and this is something that is very important. Masculine and feminine. This is a notion that, well, that people who have English as a first language don't know about for certain aspects of the language, and it's very tricky. So we're going to go through that, and it's going to be very fun. Okay. Do any one of you have a question for the objectives of today? No? Okay. Do some of you know about the masculin and féminin, maybe? I see that Felix, Nino, you're nodding your head. You know about the difference between masculine and féminin?
Sometimes, if you want to say, kind of um, it's nice meeting you, like enchanté. Like the feminine will come with E with the hyphen and
Yep.
another E, like double E, but one with the hyphen on the end. But the masculine just comes with just one E.
Yeah. So it's a notion that is very confusing for most people who have English as first language. And that's something that we're going to start to learn together, okay? So, okay. Now, we're going to start basically with se saluer. What is se saluer? C'est quoi se saluer? So,
Salutation.
well, salutations or greetings, yeah, basically. Ici, on peut voir du coup deux salutations. Bonjour ou bonsoir. Qu'est-ce que c'est bonjour ou bonsoir? C'est quoi? Do any one of you know maybe the difference between bonjour and bonsoir?
Good morning and good evening.
Good morning, good morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So you can still use bonjour as hello.
yeah. So it's so you gave a collective answer. So for example, we have bonjour, which is the most used expression to greet someone. So it's the same thing as good morning, but also good afternoon. It's kind of a mix, so it's more of a hello than a good morning or a good afternoon. And then for bonsoir, it is a good evening. So what we can see here, for example, if we look at the word in itself, bonjour et bonsoir, we can see just some, if we kind of cut the word in half, we can have the root of the word, which would be bon, okay? And then we have jour et soir. So according to you, what is jour and what is soir?
Jour is a day, soir is night.
Well, it's night and evening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, depending on the time of the day, you're going to say something different, okay? So for some of you came or have been to France or who are still in France, you may have encountered much confusion when trying to say bonjour or bonsoir. I can reassure you that even French people are mostly confused about bonjour and bonsoir because some people will say bonsoir very early, so from 5 p.m., etc. And some people who will answer to you as bonjour. So it's very confusing. It's not as strict as good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is more of a feeling thing, depending on the season, depending on when the sun is setting down. So it's much more confusing and not as strict as English. So just kind of do whatever feels best for you, depending on the time of the day. So basically, we have bonjour and bonsoir. But do you know any other greetings other than bonjour et bonsoir?
Bonne journée.
Bonne journée would be like a closing statement.
Okay.
For example, have a good day is bonne journée.
Okay.
Salut.
Bonne nuit.
I've heard salut, okay?
Bonne nuit.
Yeah.
Or also bonne nuit. Bonne nuit also is kind of a closing statement. The same thing as bonne journée is. It's kind of a good night. So you wouldn't really use it as a greeting. So when you cross path with someone, you would use it most likely to kind of have a closing statement. But bonne journée, we will be able to use it later on during the class. But Sandeep, you've said salut, okay?
Yeah.
Could you try to explain to the class what is salut, or maybe when you can use salut, or
I think salut is hello. Usually I write it when I'm writing emails. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
starting with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Donc,
we have a cuckoo, but
mhm,
it's informal. Like you
yeah.
use it with your friends, your family.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are two good additions to the greetings we have. So you've said salut and coucou. To start off with salut, par exemple. So salut is it's not as how could I say it? It's not as formal as bonjour. It's more of something that you would say to friends or to people you may know. Um, for example, to quote Sandeep, you can write an email to someone you know using salut. It's totally fine. But would you do it to a teacher, Sandeep?
I'm not sure. I mean, I have used it in professional context as well.
Yeah.
So like it's
Well,
good to know the difference now. Yeah.
depends on the people um you're addressing to. If it's your boss, you wouldn't really say salut. I think that you would use bonjour if it's the day, or bonsoir if it's the evening or the night. Um, but we can talk about coucou, which is a bit different from salut. It's even more informal. So it's kind of something that you would use to have like a informal conversation with your friend, with someone you know from previous conversations. But it's kind of I wouldn't call it necessarily a cute way to say hi, but it's kind of that. So to put it into perspectives, we would more likely say that hi is the equivalent of salut, and coucou is more of the equivalent of, I don't know, maybe well, maybe you can, for the English speakers, maybe you have other greetings that would be more uh, more of an equivalent to coucou. So Felix Nino, did you raise your hand?
So I was gonna ask, here's growing up when I learned my French in my elementary school. I
Mhm.
still remember we were being taught bon après-midi,
Mhm.
but I kind of got surprised that I came to France and I don't hear it often. So
Okay.
I don't know what's the reason for that.
Well, it's different because, well, we don't really use like the expression bon après-midi, which is literally the same thing as good afternoon. It's very strange because um, when we say bonjour, it's more of a thing. Jour is basically day, is the word day. So it's for the whole day. So even if it's morning or afternoon, we would say bonjour. Bon après-midi is more of a closing statement, the same thing as Donna said when she said bonne journée or bonne soirée. It's kind of something that you wish to someone. You wish them to have a great afternoon. Okay. Lastly, for about the coucou. Okay. Do any of the, well, the first English speakers know any other greetings that would be more of an equivalent to coucou? Like we've talked about, hi, maybe hi is kind of similar to coucou, or maybe you have some other idea about that. Nope.
Like hey is quite informal, more than hi.
A is more informal than hi. You
Like
could
you
say,
would use it more with close friends or family than hi, I think.
okay. Well, you would say that hey is basically the equivalent of coucou then, because it's very informal. It's kind of a really friendly and not really cute, but it implies that you kind of have a close relationship with someone. Okay. Do you have any question? Des questions là-dessus? Pas de questions? Okay. So we're going to move on. So next, um, so when you think of greeting someone, the first thing you think about is greeting them with like a something about the day. Okay, so for example, bonjour. And the next thing you would do in English, what would it be?
How are you?
Yeah. So the next thing in French, the same thing as in English, is to ask each other, how are you? So I'm very sure that most of you have already seen what's displayed on your screen right now. Ça va? There's multiple ways of like asking how are you. You can also see it as comment ça va? Okay? But ça va is more of a oral way of asking someone how is he. Um, so how could you answer to ça va? Maybe some of you already know. There's just so many ways you could answer that question. So for example, for the affirmative or the negative way, how could you respond to ça va?
Okay, I hear ça va, oui, ça va, like
Yep.
repetition, like yes, ça va.
Mhm.
So that's what I hear.
Oui, très bien, ouais. We could say Oui, ça va. Or if we could narrow it down even more, we could simply answer ça va. Do you understand the difference between ça va and ça va? There isn't much difference because you're basically repeating the same thing, which is kind of a joke among like maybe French learners about how it doesn't make sense that you would answer the same thing as the question. Okay. So ça va, there's many ways you could answer to that question. Felix, you have said it. You would say oui, ça va if you're okay. If you're maybe not okay, you would answer non, ça va pas, depending on the situation. You could say ça va bien, je vais bien, ça va mal, etc. Okay. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you to kind of participate together. So we are, I think, 10. So what I want you to do is turn by turn asking each other. Ça va. So I will start. So technically, I don't know if you're seeing it the same way as I am, but under my kind of small picture, there's Joanna. So basically, I'm going to ask Joanna, how is she? And then she's going to ask Bethan, how is she? And then she's going to ask, okay. So basically, that's what we're going to do. Ça va, Joanna?
Oui, ça va bien.
Ça va bien? Okay.
Bien, bien.
Très bien. Super. Ensuite, so then could you ask Bethan, how is she?
Bonjour, Bassan. Ça va?
Oui, ça va bien, merci. I'm not sure who's next, to be honest.
So you can ask whoever you feel like asking. I see Felix Nino under you, but maybe your display is different, so whatever you feel like.
Yeah. Felix, ça va?
Oui, ça va. Comment c'est? Donna.
Oui,
Ça va, Donna?
oui, ça va. How do you say bien? Moi aussi. Ça va bien.
Très bien,
Merci.
très bien.
Ok, d'accord. One sec. Priya, Loga Priya. Ça va?
Oui, ça va bien. Merci. Euh, Sandeep, ça va?
Oui, ça va, très bien. Et toi? I'm gonna ask Aaron, comment ça va?
Oui, ça va bien. Merci. Ça va, Nora?
Je vais bien, merci. I don't know who is left. The last one is iPhone, I think.
Yeah, we need to know whose iPhone.
It's Bella.
Bella. Okay, so
Yeah.
Okay. Bonjour, Bella. Ça va?
Bonjour, ça va? Merci.
okay, well, pretty good. All right, so now that we know that everyone is doing all right, we can move on. By the way, do you often answer to the question ça va with maybe something negative? In French or in English in general?
Sometimes we do, right?
Would you do it like to someone you've just met or someone that you don't really know?
No, that's not.
Yeah, so it's the same thing in French and English. Most of the time, you would answer ça va, merci. You wouldn't really go into deep details about your feelings and how you feel today. It's just kind of a formal way to greet each other and acknowledge each other. So basically just the same thing as in English. If someone asks you how are you, you would most likely say I'm fine, thank you. Okay. Any question for now? Nope. Okay. Okay. So, maintenant, on va parler de la nationalité. C'est quoi nationalité? Nationalité.
Like where are you from? The
Yep.
country?
So there were multiple kind of multiple tips to know what's nationalité. This is kind of the same word as in English, nationality, nationalité. Okay. There's also flags. So we're going to kind of get to know about something that is going to be important about your experience in learning French. Does anyone can read a little bit of French? Maybe someone who's willing to read one sentence or two sentence.
Yeah, I'll do the first one.
All right. Thank you, Nora.
So Max est allemand, Amelia est allemande.
How did you pronounce the first sentence?
Allemande.
I'm not sure if I can hear like the D in the first. Did you pronounce a D at the end of the first sentence?
I think I did.
Okay, we're going to kind of see how we pronounce that little word. Okay, so for the second part, who can read the second part?
I can.
All right.
Pierre est français, Marie est français.
Okay. All right. So, and for the last part, anyone can read, or I can volunteer if you're not willing to read. Okay, so I'll just go ahead. Lorenzo est italien. Sofia est italienne. Okay, so we've read the three parts here. So first off, what can you see about those three parts? Nora?
One of them is masculine and one of them is feminine.
Basically, one of them is feminine and the other one is masculine. Okay. What would we say, for example, for the first part? For example, Max est allemand. What would be the English way of saying it?
Max is German.
And the second sentence here?
Amelia is German.
Yeah. So Max is German and Amelia is German. There's something that differs in French and English. So it's the gender. Okay, so feminine and masculine. Common nouns in English don't have gender. So that makes learning English, for example, much easier than it is to learn French. We can see also on the nationality that sometimes something is missing and other times there's something that is kind of written here. So For example, someone else than Nora. What is different, for example, for Max and Amelia in the word allemand or allemande? It's something that Felix Nino has said before. I've kind of underlined the things that you need to kind of pay attention to.
There's an E at the end of Allemande for Amelia.
Yeah, so it would be feminine or masculine?
Feminine for
Feminine.
Amelia.
Yep. So we're going to learn about gender rules in French, which are kind of a real pain to learn about. But for the moment, we're going to focus on the logical sense of masculine and feminine, which is basically for persons, for example. But later, we are going to learn about if tables is a girl or if table is a boy, which is going to be much harder to kind of grasp as a concept. Okay, so for the moment, we have a first column which is masculine and the second column that is feminine. Which could who could read, for example, the first word? Well, the two first words. Who could start to read the two first words? So in the column, you have the two first words are français, française, okay? Who could read the other words just below français et française?
Australien, Australienne.
Australien, australienne, très bien, merci. Et ensuite, on a
Ondien, Ondienne.
indien, indienne, très bien. Et le dernier? Et le dernier, alors je vais le dire, il est plus dur. It's much harder. It's anglais et anglaise. Okay? So from those two columns, what are the sounds you hear at the end that are changing from masculine to feminine? So I'll read again. For example, you have français, française, australien, australienne, indien, indienne, and anglais, anglaise. So what are the two main sounds that we can hear at the end of the words in feminine? No guesses? So I'll just underline some of them. Basically, we can hear two main sounds. For the first one, in français, française, we can hear z, française, which is different from the masculine français. Okay? Then we have australien, which becomes australienne. So you can see that with just adding a simple letter E, you can have two sounds added. The Z, and the N. Okay, so two consonants. Consonants, I think that you say it this way in English, consonants. There's vowels and consonants. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You would say consonants.
Consonants. Okay, thank you. As you see, my English isn't perfect at all. I still have much to learn. So there's vowels and consonants. Here, E is a vowel. We know it. And it can have, or it can add two different words, two different consonants sounds. So for example, the Z and the N. Okay. Did most of you know about the changes that could occur if we change genders, for example? Nope. None of you knew about maybe the difference between français, française, or how you would. So maybe some of you have learned Spanish, Italian, maybe. Did any one of you learn Spanish or Italian? No, is it a no or a yes? Something? Did any one of you learn Spanish? So it's basically the same thing as in Spanish and Italian, where we have a distinct mark for masculine and feminine. In French, it's much different and much harder to kind of locate the difference between masculine and feminine, because sometimes the E is mute. You can't hear the E in certain words. However, here it's much easier because we can hear it, okay? But in certain words, it's unhearable, so it may be a little bit tricky when you write French, okay? If we take maybe the example of Spanish, basically feminine is A, so A, and the masculine is O. So it's much easier to kind of decipher if it's a masculine or feminine, because the masculine has a clear pattern or a mark that is recognizable. The masculine in French doesn't have a mark, which is really hard to understand at first. Okay. All right. So what we are going to do now, we're going to spin the wheel. On va faire tourner la roue. And we're going to try to see each other if it's, well, if it's masculine or if it's feminine, okay? So I'll share my screen right now. So, okay. So can each and everyone see the screen right now? Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. So basically, I'm going to spin the wheel, and well, if you want to take turn, saying if it's masculine or if it's feminine, you're welcome to just turn on your microphone and say it. Okay. I'll spin the wheel. Je fais tourner la roue. Ok. Alors, allemande. C'est quoi allemande? C'est masculin allemande?
No.
Well, yeah, it isn't masculine because of that little letter, the E. The E
Okay.
is the mark of feminine. C'est la marque du féminin. So allemande is feminine. So for example, for a woman. Okay. Je vais tourner la roue encore. Ok. Grec. C'est quoi grec? C'est masculin ou féminin?
Masculin.
Ok, très bien. Masculin. Et alors, c'est masculin. It's masculine because there's no E, basically. Ok, great. Je tourne encore. Allemande, on va changer. Bosnien, par exemple. Bosnien.
Masculine.
Masculine. Okay. And we could do that for like maybe ages. But you kind of get the basics about basic general rules in French. You have to pay attention to the last letter. There's also the rule of the plural, which is the same thing as in English with the S at the end. So always make sure to pay attention. Yes, Felix Nino, you wanted to say something?
Yes, can you please help in pronouncing the names of the
Excuse me?
countries of the world? Like making the pronunciations
Hmm.
of the names,
I can't really hear you.
like helping us with the pronunciation, like the correct pronunciations of the country names on the board.
Well, there is a very easy trick to learn about. So basically, we will take, for example, on the PowerPoint, what we had. So let me share the PowerPoint here. Okay, so we had maybe like we had two different pronunciations. We had français, française, et australien et australienne. So basically what you have to do is pay attention to that last letter. If it's a consonant, you would say in French, N has only one sound, which is N. It's a consonant, okay? The S is a bit different, but at the end of words, you would only hear it as a Z. Okay, so Z. Basically, the E is silent in française. You can't hear the E. You can't hear the E in française. The last sound of française is Z. But the E is very important because it codifies if it's going to be française and not français. Do you understand the difference? So basically, to know what sound we're going to have, for example, for masculine or feminine, is basically to pay attention to the last consonant letter. Because E at the end of words is always mute. You can't hear the E in French. That's also why French is much harder to learn and to write than English. From my experience in English, at least, is that it's much easier to write from what you hear because most of the letters that you pronounce are written. In French, you throw that rule away because you have so many mute sounds and mute letters that it would be very hard to basically write from what you hear in French. Okay? Any questions for now? No question? Nope. Okay. So we're going to so we did that little wheel. Do you want to make a short 5 minutes pause so you can kind of refill your energy? Or we can kind of roll on if you want to continue. Whatever you feel like. A pause, no pause.
Can continue.
So if no one is speaking up for a pause, we're going to continue, okay? Is that okay with you? Okay. So yeah, thanks for the thumbs up. Okay, so now we are going to go into like the thick of the of today's lesson is basically to present yourself. So what can you see here? Maybe some of you have been in contact with that kind of document before. Do any one of you know what is the little thing here?
Like an ID card?
It's an ID card. So it's une carte nationale d'identité, or as we call it in France, CNI, carte d'identité. Okay. Well, for example, who said identity card? Okay, so Joanna, for example, what is the difference between identity card and carte d'identité? Identity card
mhm.
and carte d'identité.
Like the order of the noun and the adjective?
Yeah. So this is also something that we're going to learn more deeply later on, is that the orders with adverbs and adjectives are kind of switched up. So for example, we had the example of the identity card, which becomes in French carte d'identité. So basically you have the noun first in French, and then you have the adjective that kind of describes the noun, which is the opposite in English, depending on the length of adjectives, I believe. That's the rule in English, maybe. That's something that I'll have to look into. Okay, donc on a une carte d'identité. We have an identity card. Okay, so what are the main elements that you can see on that identity card?
First name,
Mhm.
last name.
Okay, so what is first name and what is last name?
First name is prénom.
Prénom. Yep.
Yeah. And the last name, which is the family name, is nom.
Non. Yep. So you can see this is a good example of why it is very hard to write from what you hear in French. We have non. If we're being kind of logical with how it's written here, we would say nom, because we can see the consonant M, okay? Normally, or in English, at least in English, we would pronounce that M, that final M. In French, it's very different because those two letters kind of form an ensemble of a word. So that O is pronounced on. Okay. So we have nom. Nom is last name. Okay. What other elements do we have here? Can anyone?
The birthday?
Yeah, birthday. Okay, so where was he born?
Yeah, location, his height.
Yeah. And do you know where he was born?
In Paris?
En français, ça donnerait?
En Paris.
À Paris, très bien,
À Paris.
oui. À Paris. Yep. Okay. À Paris, très bien. So, well, basically, you can see in the photo, but is he a man or a woman? That's what is written here, a M for masculine, okay? So basically, what would be his nationality? Quelle est sa nationalité à Paul?
Français.
Français, oui. Et pas française. It's not française, it's français because he is a masculine person. Okay? All right. Do any one of you have some question about that? About kind of the masculine, the feminine, the nationality? Nope. Good. Yes, Nino?
Oh, I want to know, like in pronouncing cities or talking about cities, I think they still have something like how do they say this? Like from what I have learned since I came here, there are some cities that are pronounced like they are feminine, then there are
Yeah.
cities that are masculine.
Yeah. That's
Like
also
you
a thing.
pronounce them.
So that's something that I've kind of talked about. It's very complicated to grasp the concept of masculine and feminine as a English speaker, because in French, as in the language, we learn from a very early age that, for example, a city or a country can be feminine or masculine. For example, France, la France, it's feminine. But if we take the example of, for example, le Mexique, what country is le Mexique? Mexique?
Mexico.
Yeah,
Mexico.
Mexico. Well, Mexico is masculine for some reason. So we wouldn't say la Mexique, we would say le Mexique. And that little word that you can see on the idea card, this is a preposition. In English, it's much more straightforward. So for example, for a city, I think that you would, for a city or country would say in, for example, a location. So you would say in, for example, I was born in Paris. You would say that like that. Here, it depends of the gender of the city or the country you're talking about. So the preposition is something that we are going to look into much later on, because it's something that has to be kind of learned for now. But it kind of shows how the French is kind of ruled around the gender question of nouns, which is very kind of hazardous. So it's going to be something that is going to be talked about much later on. Okay. For the time that we have left, so here's a little reminder of what we have learned so far. So from the basic greetings, so bonjour, bonsoir, salut, coucou. I don't think that this class is very formal. So you could say salut, you could say coucou, whatever. Whatever works for you. I'm not the one to be really into the formal question, okay? But there is another kind of expression that we haven't seen so far. It's je m'appelle and je suis. So can someone maybe try to explain to everyone what is je m'appelle? So we have kind of a int here.
Je m'appelle, my name
Yeah.
is
My name.
Je suis. I am from.
Je suis is just I am.
Okay, yeah, I am. Yes, I am. Okay.
So for example, but you could say, for example, if you were to introduce yourself to someone, you could also say je suis. Par exemple, si, for example, if I kind of introduce myself to you, I could say je suis Adriel. I am Adriel. The same thing as you would do, I think, in English. You could be able to introduce yourself to someone you don't know by saying I am Adriel, for example. So it's the same thing in French. You could say je m'appelle, my name is, or je suis. It depends of what you want to say. Okay. And this little verb here, suis, okay? So what verb is it, Felix Nino? So you've said that it was je suis. What verb is it in English? Je suis.
I am
So yeah, it's the verb be.
to be.
Yeah. So this is just like the same thing in English. This is the most important verb in French. About the verbs for now, we're not really going to focus on verbs because it's very different from English. Do some of you have learned about verbs in French? Like if you tried to learn French before, or maybe you know about how we kind of conjugate the verbs? No? No idea? Okay, so basically, well, if I would take an example, we're going to take the example of the verb be. This in English, it's very straightforward. No, I wouldn't take be because it's the most complicated verb in English. For example, play. Play is jouer en anglais. Okay. So play. If you were to conjugate play at the present simple, you would say I play, you play, he plays, etc., etc. There's basically no variation in the way you're conjugating the verb. In French, it's very different. We have something that we call the kind of the terminaison. So it's very important. For example, I play would be je joue. Okay, for now it's simple enough. Then you play would be tu joues. Then he plays, she plays would be il joue. But then we are going to move on the territories that are kind of tricky to learn about. The terminaison change a lot. So basically, we play would be nous jouons. Vous, so you play would be vous jouez. And then they play would be ils jouent. But each and every words are, or each and every terminaison has a different way to spell it. So it's very tricky to learn, and we're going to kind of learn about it, but much later on, because it's such a big part of learning French that is very tricky, especially for English speakers who have no past experience with conjugating the terminaison in French. So if you maybe learn Spanish, this is the same thing as in Spanish. For example, je m'appelle is me llamo, te llamo, se llama, etc. It changes from person to person. Okay. Any question for now about the verb je suis, je m'appelle? Nope. No question. Okay. So we're basically going to end that off on that little note. So I'm going to ask everyone to kind of present yourself to the class. So for now, we have learned about greetings. You can choose the greetings you want. Then how you would introduce your name, and then your nationality, if it's feminine or masculine. So about the vocabulary. So in the class we have British people, we have Australians, I think that we have Indians, we have I don't know, Nigerians. I think that you're from Nigeria, Felix Nino. Okay. So I'm going to try to help you with the vocabulary. But for now, if someone, so I'll try to be first for now, okay? I'll start with the greetings, then my name, then my nationality, okay? Donc, bonjour, salut, je m'appelle Adriel, je suis français, okay? So, whose turn is it?
I could go.
All right,
Bonjour, je m'appelle Donna, je suis indienne.
très bien, je suis indienne, très très bien. So, who wants to...
Yeah. Bonjour, je m'appelle Sandeep, je suis étudiant.
Yeah, you could say je suis étudiant. Très
Yeah,
bien,
je suis étudiant. Yeah, oui, je suis indien.
je suis indien, très bien. Okay. Who wants to go next? Okay, Joanna.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Joanna, je suis canadienne.
Je suis canadienne, très bien, très très bien. Okay. Felix.
Bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle Félix Nino. Je suis nigérien.
Très bien. Okay. Okay, Nora.
Bonjour, salut, je m'appelle Nora, je suis irlandaise.
Okay, très bien. We have a few persons left. Aaron, okay.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Aaron, je suis australien.
Australien, très très bien. Okay. Loga. Bonjour Loga.
Bonjour,
Mhm.
m'appelle Gabriel, je suis malaisienne.
Je suis malaisienne. Très bien. C'est une nationalité qu'on n'avait pas vue, ça. Okay, très bien. And lastly, Bella.
Bonjour, je suis Bella, je suis chinoise.
Je suis chinoise. Okay, très bien. All right. Okay. So I think that now everyone kind of has an idea of who each other is, okay? So as you see, there's several nationalities in the class. We're only about 10 to 11 and we have so much variety, so that's pretty good. Okay. So the class comes to an end. I don't have much to say anymore. Do you have questions? We can take like about 5 minutes to answer each and everyone's questions about what we saw so far. Okay. Do you have maybe some questions, some recommendations that you want to make? Anything to add about what we saw so far?
Could I ask about the ça va? What do you mean? Could you explain how you can answer with ça va to the question ça va?
Okay. So you didn't particularly get how you can respond to ça va?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, you didn't introduce yourself, Bethune.
I tried.
So now that you have your microphone opened, you can introduce yourself to the group.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Betha. Je suis anglaise.
Ah bien, okay. So about the ça va. So what didn't understand about it?
How you can answer
Okay.
ça va with ça va.
Well, it's basically kind of informal, which is there's something in French and also in English where we kind of um and well kind of make a question with an affirmation. Okay. So ça va, depending on the way you say it, it could be viewed as a question, as it could be an affirmation or an answer. For example, if you pay attention, it's just basically the same thing as in English. Par exemple, if you would say, you all right? Or you all right? Ça va? Ça va. So it's basically, it's kind of hard to get sometimes, but the intonation has to be really marked if you're asking a question or if you're answering. Because if you kind of end on a high note, as you would do with a question, it would be perceived as an answer. And well, each to their own. So, for example, if I ask you, ça va? What could you possibly answer then?
Like, ça va bien?
Ça va bien, oui. So if you kind of end on a descending note, okay?
Mhm.
Any other question maybe about ça va, about the nationalities, the gender rules, anything really? Feel free to ask questions if you have any. Nope. Okay. Well, so thanks for coming in today. I think that we are finishing a little bit earlier than I would have thought. So what you can do for now, as I've recorded the class, if you're still willing to watch it again, you can. I mean, I think that the person who couldn't be here will be glad to be able to see that class here, okay? Um, about the Discord, so the Discord private channel, I'm hearing, or I can see also that most of you haven't joined or couldn't really join with the link. So, were you able to kind of join with the link, or did you have trouble accessing it?
I think you have to, at least for me, you have to add me because I'm just able to go to the main channel, I'm not being added to the private one.
So Sandeep, I manually added you yesterday. So you
Okay.
would, I think that you're in the chat, in the private
Cool.
chat.
Okay.
So that's something that the Atelier du Français really kind of wants to do an emphasis on, is to really use that Discord private channel as a kind of a notebook. It's kind of a place where we can exchange resources, but also memos about the class. So if you're not present, for example, for some class, I'll send the link of the recording on the Discord private channel. If someone wants to share some helpful resources, some videos about French learning, they can share it on that private chat. So if you want to kind of join it, well, you're always very welcome to do so, okay? Am I on YouTube? No, I'm not on YouTube, but l'Atelier du Français has a YouTube channel, which has a big database of resources for, well, just to kind of be able to learn English, okay? So I think that you may have encountered the link for now. If you haven't, I can still send them on the Discord channel or by mail if you're not able to join the Discord. Really, it really depends of you in the end if you can or want to check the Discord channel. Okay, so I'll send another maybe link or a memo tonight to or this evening to kind of try to have more people on the Discord channel. Yeah, so I think that we're done now. If you don't have any more question about the Discord, because I know that most of you have had trouble joining or understanding I have to join. Do you have questions about the Discord channel, or do you want some help joining? Anything really? Nothing to add about that? Yep. Okay. Well, I guess that's the end of today's class then. So for the moment, I guess we'll see each other on Tuesday. So starting from 1 p.m. to 2:40 p.m. So that was great because today everyone was here on time, so we didn't have much time to wait for each other. So that was pretty neat. So maybe if anyone of you can't make it to the class or it will be late, it's totally fine. Just try to send me a mail and I'll be able to kind of make sure that you're not waiting in the in the waiting list on the Zoom. Okay. So thank you very much for coming in. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
On se verra du coup le mardi.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous.
Enchanté à tous.
Ah, super, enchanté.
Allez,
All right. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Passez une bonne journée.
bonne journée, au revoir.
Au revoir, au revoir.